Hey, welcome everyone. We have another episode of our supply chain podcast. Today we're meeting with Ann Mitchell, our operations administrator, and Sierra Jackson from our Orangeburg division. So recently they had an opportunity to attend a conference around women's leadership. So we're going to chat with them today a little bit more about that. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little more about this conference that you attended.
Yeah, so we went, it was, early February, I think?
It was mid-January.
Mid-January. We're in the middle of early February. So we went down to Florida. It was a women's conference sponsored by HFMA, which is healthcare finance, so really not geared towards supply chain at all, which was actually kind of nice. I feel like being both a women's conference and a conference that was other leaders in healthcare but not supply chain, kind of made it a very different dynamic than what you would expect at a typical supply chain conference, whether it's a Vizient, an IDN, an ARM conference. So one, there were no vendors trying to sell you anything, which was nice.
That's always a plus.
And I felt like instead of trying to be like on for work and having to be, representing like MUSC and like, not that we weren't doing that, but it was very much like you could be yourself. It was more about personal growth and kind of just connecting with other women in the industry instead of trying to just talk about supply chain the whole time, which I actually kind of enjoyed.
Very much so. Great. So what were the benefits, or what are the benefits of having women in leadership?
You want to take a stab at that one?
So I think having women in leadership offers a new perspective on the things that we are trying to accomplish. It's no question that men and women think differently. So when you are able to put a woman in a leadership position, they're able to offer a different perspective as to how we can accomplish this goal and what it's going to take to accomplish this goal. So having a bunch of women come together and being able to see their different perspectives on these other goals that we're all trying to accomplish, like how do we offer better patient care, how do we increase revenue, how do we do all of these things, and all of these different ladies have different opinions and different perspectives of how they've done it before and what's worked, what hasn't worked. So bringing everybody together has been, it was really good to see what other women brought to the table.
Yeah. Because
I don't feel like, especially being in something like supply chain, it's mostly a male industry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
a male-dominated industry.
No matter what supply chain you're in, whether it's construction and industrial where I came from, or if it's healthcare, it's always been men-dominated. So having women be able to offer their opinions and perspectives has been very nice. It's something different.
Yeah.
So
awesome. So when you guys began your careers a long ago, did you ever imagine that you would have a leadership role in this profession?
I always imagined having a leadership role. I wouldn't say in supply chain.
Yeah.
But I think most people in supply chain, male or female, will say no one, as a child, said I wanted to grow up and be in supply chain. Most people kind of just fall into it.
I'm also one of those.
Yeah, very much so. But I mean, from a young age, I was kind of always one to try and be a leader, from team sports, being the captain. I was president of my sorority. I was always kind of in a leadership role. I kind of just, I feel like naturally gravitated to that. Maybe because I like the spotlight and wanted the attention on me. I am a Leo. But, I think you learn over time from those different positions that you're in, and they're not always, necessarily related to work, but they do help you kind of grow into that. So, even being in grad school, I knew I wanted to do healthcare leadership. And then when supply chain kind of opened up and opened its doors for me, it just worked out for me to continue to grow in this space.
Well, you seem like a natural in it, both of you. So what motivated you to step up and become a leader in this organization?
In this organization, I'm not going to lie a little bit about me. I was born on the second floor in this hospital.
Oh, so you have history.
A little bit. I was born and raised in Orangeburg, so this is home for me. Not going to lie, I have applied to positions here before, and I was never hired. I was given the opportunity to come in as a surgical services buyer for RMC before we switched over to MUSC, and knowing how much this facility impacts the community, it was very important to me to try to grow within this within this organization because, again, if something's wrong, this is where me and my family are coming. So I want to make sure that this is a stable pillar for the community and that we can rely on it to make sure that our families are taken care of.
Yeah, what a great way to look at it. And what do you think is the most significant barrier to female leadership?
Oh,
I feel like me and Ann will probably have a little bit of different perspectives on this one.
it's interesting. I mean, I was very much growing up, again, going back to like as a child, like I was always kind of one of the guys. I didn't have a lot of female friends. I would say I have one very close girl best friend, but our friend group was a bunch of guys. So, I mean, I think the folks who were at Fleet months and years ago saw the picture of me as a child. I used to be called Ann the Man. I mean, I kind of always...
We can start that nickname again
Yeah,
if you'd like.
maybe not. But I just... I grew up with the perspective of... you know, there's not a difference in men and women, and anything you can do, I can do better, and I'm gonna, you know, I want to play sports with the boys, I want to beat them on the track team, and I kind of carried that into work life of like, I don't know what these other women are talking about, there's not a different, like, why do you walk into a room and think I'm the only one who's different than everyone else who's in here, like, you have a seat at the table, and then you reach a certain level, and you kind of get to the top, and you're like, all right, it is a lot of guys up here. And I think going to the conference helped me realize, like, wow, there's this divide, whether you see it or you don't. And, you know, it's something to embrace, not something to, I think you can kind of walk into diversity and, like, women in leadership at two perspectives. Some people want to, like, throw it in your face of, I'm the only one who's different and I'm going to make a name for myself. And I think that can sometimes just make in an awkward situation, or people want to then resist that and push back. And so it's really kind of, how do you take the perception of, you know, we're all trying to achieve the same goal. You know, let's work together. I don't want to say I'm the only, like, woman in the room, or I'm the only woman on the team, and make that, like, call it out. But how do we kind of recognize that and celebrate the differences? And I think learning from the conference is really, how can I take that and move forward of, like, okay, it's not a matter of being one with the guys, like, really embrace just being a female leader and what I can bring that's different than just what the guys can bring at the table.
Great. And I know you said you might have an opinion on this
No,
too,
I
that might
agree.
differ a little bit.
I agree. I think that being a woman in leadership, people are trying to hold you to different standards than they would hold others, because I feel like in this day and age, I know you're going to ask about this later, but being a mother and being in leadership, I feel like it's hard. And honestly, the mother's always expected to do everything. It never fails. Like, that's it. I mean, it's just, the woman is always going to be the mother, always going to be the one, the caregiver, the provider, that's always there. But when you're in leadership, it's like, okay, how do I balance my work life with my personal life? Because I'm a mom first, but I'm also a leader of people. So how do you manage what you're doing at home with what you're doing with your family? And I feel like at the conference, they talked a lot about that, like how they can outsource things in their personal and professional life to make it easier on them, because self-care is important. Absolutely. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. So that was one of the realizations that I've gotten from the conference, was if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. So it's just, I feel like when you take that realization and you start actually acting on it, it makes things a little bit easier. I mean, I've started taking care of myself, and because I know that's important. I mean, the conference made me realize that. So now I can see that I'm happier when I come to work. I'm happier with my kid. I'm happier when I'm at home. So I feel like people need to realize that, and no, it doesn't necessarily have to cost you money, because I know it's tough right now. I mean, economy's tough. It really is. But read a book. Go on a walk. I went on a walk, y'all. I do not walk. I went on a walk. And
you walk enough all day here at the hospital.
I went on a walk, like, in nature with real things and people and the real air. And it was amazing. Like, I was like, why don't I do this? Like, go do things for yourself.
Mhm.
Go get your nails done once a year. Go get a man. Go do something because it is important. It is. You got to make sure you're okay too.
Yeah, it's a great reminder.
Yeah.
I'm getting a massage tonight, so.
I'm going to eat Mexican and drink a margarita.
And Mexican Friday, I'm all about it. Yeah,
I mean,
but I do want to comment on the point you made around just like women and the caretaker. And I do think, I know we're going to kind of talk about work-life balance, but there is this expectation of women being the caretaker, but I also think, that is what kind of helps us in leadership too. I feel like a lot of times when I've run into issues at work and being a leader, like you said, you're taking care of people. It's not necessarily your child. I used to joke and tell people, the reason I don't have kids is because I have 10 kids at work that I have to take care of. But I think sometimes male leaders will take the approach of whatever's the quickest and easiest way. And when we talk about kind of emotions at work, emotional can mean a lot of different things. You can take kind of the more feminine and like, oh, they're emotional, they're crying, they have mood swings. But I do think men sometimes take the emotional just out, like, I'm just going to express in anger or express in being like very strict and say like, it's this way and I'm going to take more of a forceful leadership approach. And that works. It is effective. But from a caretaker's perspective, like, it takes extra time to sit down with your care team member and explain why what they did wasn't okay and help teach them what the next thing, what they should be doing instead. And that's hard as a leader to do. I've got other meetings to go to. I've got other things to do. Like, it's easy for me just to send the email to say, no, stop doing that, or slap the hand, or call someone and say, like, pick up the phone and yell at them of like, I can't believe you did this. But when we talk about our relationships with our staff, and like, no one wants to work for a boss like that. And I think that's where women bring that kind of extra level of like taking the time. We're used to being the caretaker. We can take the time to really kind of have that empathy for our employees and want to teach and help them grow, that we don't always see necessarily from male counterparts. And that's not to say they don't do that. I do think there are some really strong male leaders, but I feel like sometimes I've asked for support or asked for help or like, hey, advice in a situation. How do I handle this with a care team member? And the advice I usually get from another guy is, just like ignore it or yell at them or be stern, and you've got to put your foot down. I'm like, that's just not me. Like, I can't, and I think there's different ways to earn respect with your employees than just being kind of the
hard fist.
Like the hammer.
The iron fist and everything. So, I like that caretaker approach. Both motherhood and leadership.
Agreed, because, if you ask anybody on my team here, we're a family. I do owe that to my previous director, but
there's also a leader.
Another strong woman in supply chain. Shout out Jenna, we love you. But that's the culture she started here, and I'm more than happy to continue to take that culture and grow on it, because that family connection here. That's why whenever we do get visits from different people in Orangeburg, they're always like, I love y'all's culture. I love being up here. Everybody's a family, and that's one thing I can pride myself on. We're a family. That's straight up. Never going to change. Yeah.
I know you guys can't see it on the camera, but behind you on the table is a lot of snacks for the team. A lot of snacks. So you can tell they're family here for sure.
We love to eat, and we're all a big family. So whenever employee engagement is very important to us. So food is always a necessity.
Great. So do you think it's better to create different initiatives for men and women than if you see the difference?
Yeah, I think it's good to celebrate the differences. I do think kind of allowing the two of us to go to the conference was, I am grateful to be in an organization where they allowed us to do that. I think it's important to kind of take time to kind of separate, but then come together and kind of, okay, how can we work together? How can I, take time for myself and then work with the guys? We can't just say like, women leaders over here and men leaders over here, or we're going to do a team building and we're just going to take all the women out for the day and ignore the men. Like, I think we have to learn how to bring those differences together and have initiatives that help it so you can be a family, so you can be a team. We can't just constantly separate ourselves and say there's this divide. I think it's important to call it out, but it's important to learn how we work with it.
I think the differences should be celebrated, but you also have to come together and learn how those differences can help you achieve that common goal.
Yeah,
Like,
make you stronger as a
yeah.
whole.
I mean, if you don't notice them and you don't recognize them, how can you celebrate them and use them to your strengths?
Mm-hmm. Have either of you received any resistance, when leading men, or how did you deal with that, if you did?
I think I get more resistance for being younger than I do with being
Agreed.
a woman.
Yeah.
And it's hard to come. I mean, I got into a leadership role early in my career, which I'm grateful for. But I was the youngest one at the table, and I think a lot of times I got looked down as like, oh, you're the little sister in the room, or like, okay, you're not as important because you're younger.
Yeah.
I think I've had to fight that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I've had less like. It might be undertones, and I probably the longer I'm in a senior leadership role where it's all men, I'll pick up on it. But you can't take personal offense to it. I mean, everyone is in their journey learning, and some people are further along, more accepting. Some people aren't quite there yet. I think if you try and shove it down their throats, you're gonna get more resistance back. So
I agree.
yeah, you kind of just gotta go with the flow.
Yeah.
Which is hard to do. It's not
Yes.
easy. It's frustrating.
Not at all.
But you kind of you learn timing. A lot of things in leadership and life are all about timing. When to speak, when to make your move, when to like it's not the right time for me to push back. Okay, like am I annoyed?
Yeah.
Am I rolling my eyes secretly? If like, okay, say whatever you want to say.
We all do it.
Yeah. Like, all right, I'm just gonna bucket that one and we'll deal with it later on my walk.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I agree.
Yeah. Well, I know that you guys have talked about balance and becoming a family, but how do you balance career and personal life and your passions? Is there such a thing as balance?
It is, but I think that I'm going back to self-care because once you learn how to care for yourself, you learn how to care for everything and how to prioritize it. But I'm also grateful to work at an organization that allows me to be a mom and that allows me to balance my work. I mean, MUSC and my leadership team, they have been supportive of everything I've been through. I mean, it's not been too long ago that I finished my degree, my MHA. So they knew I was crazy. Like for that whole 18 months, they knew I was crazy.
Yeah.
So they were there and they supported me. So I think that goes back to, again, you have to build the family with your work family so that you are able to balance everything.
Yeah.
Like I know for certain right now, if I had to miss a week, my entire team would manage this place without any interruptions. Would I get some texts and complaining about I need 5 years of PTO? Probably.
Yeah.
But building that family here is great to help manage the family at home.
Yeah.
And
it's great to have such trust in your team, too.
It really is. If you don't trust your team, then honestly, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to be able to be successful if you don't have a team you can trust.
Yeah.
100%.
Great. Now, what are ways that you stay grounded and take care of yourself? I know you mentioned taking a walk or a massage. What other ways might someone help take that balance?
I do try and disconnect from work, which is hard to do sometimes, but and this is a personal choice, everyone's different, but like I will choose to stay later in the office to get stuff done, so when I'm home, the laptop doesn't come out.
Yeah.
There's times that it does. I mean, last night I was emailing my team, so it's not always perfect. But, I don't want to be the person who's working until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I try and go to bed at the same time every night, and I try and kind of keep my routine separate. And maybe that is working later some days or working on the weekends. But it is trying to, like I said, finding the moments where you're like, okay, this is going to be the boundary for me.
Yeah.
Maybe it's I'm shutting it down at 5. I don't have a family at home that I go to. I live by myself, but you can set that boundary of like, I'm leaving at 5 and I'm going to go home to my family. And maybe that means I need to log back in at 8 or 9 to take care of some things I didn't quite finish up.
Right.
But I think it's just trying to find what boundary works for your schedule, your lifestyle, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that someone doesn't have the same schedule as you. So, I can't get frustrated when someone, doesn't respond to my 6 p.m. email. Like,
Yes.
it's going to be okay. I get emails from my team at 5, 6 in the morning, and sometimes I feel guilty, like, oh my gosh, they're already working and I'm not at work yet. But I'm like, well, I'm going to be working on Saturday when they're not working. Like, it's
Yeah.
a different schedule. So you just kind of
Mhm.
have to learn to work with that.
It's also that issue of trust too. Like, you know that they have everything under control
Yeah.
when you're not able to be on the clock too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So how can women support other women in the workplace and in life?
This is one thing that I really did learn at the. I brought my notes.
I know what you're going to say.
I brought my notes.
Because I was going to say the same thing. So go
Okay,
ahead.
so I've already talked about self-care.
Yep.
Okay, make sure you give people their flowers, okay? And not only give people their flowers, but make sure you receive them. Like, I'm horrible at taking compliments, okay? I will give you a laundry list of stuff as to why I did what I did to get to that end result.
Yep.
Because I don't feel like I earned that compliment. I do not feel like ever I need compliments. So if somebody says, you're doing a great job. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to
I'm
respond
guilty
to
of that too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to do. But take them, receive them, listen. I mean, I know I'm preaching to myself, y'all. Like, I really am. Take your flowers, give your flowers. I mean, this is one of the, I loved this lady. It was a Joy, it's called The Year of the Joy Starter. It's a book that we learned about. Her name is Rachel Joy Barbier. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to butcher it. But, like, she was one of the best presenters we saw there. I mean, we had some great presenters, and I actually got to meet some of them personally. Like, I got stuck in a taxi with one because we were left at the airport. But other than that, I mean, like, Rachel was, like, legit jumping around on stage, had everybody crying. We went from crying to laughing to crying to crying. I mean, give your flowers. Take your flowers. I'm telling you, if you learn how to, again, start taking care of yourself so you can learn how to take care of everybody else. But receive your flowers. Just say thank you. Just say thank you. Don't give them a list of as to why you did what you did to get there. Just say thank you. Just thank you. But yeah, that's.
I was gonna ask, the other comment that was made at the retreat or the conference was about crabs in a crab boil.
Oh,
When you
God.
throw all the
Yeah.
crabs in a crab boil, what they all start doing is they all start trying to climb out of the pot. And so they're reaching up and they're pulling the other crab down, you know, for them to get ahead. And so there was a lot of talk about, like, women, like, we got to lift each other up. Don't be the crab that's reaching up, pulling someone down so you can get above. So I think it is really easy to, like, when you're in this competitive environment and the field gets smaller and smaller, especially as you climb in leadership, it's easy to kind of throw someone under the bus, push someone down. You know, I'm gonna get to the top. But what do you get when you get up to the? It's like you're not gonna get anything from that. But, like, how can you reach back and pull someone up with you versus trying to pull someone down to your level? So I do think, you know, just mentorship, trying to reach out for someone. I think if anyone is interested in growth, you know, taking that initiative too is helpful. Like, the reason Sierra went to the conference is because Sierra emailed me and said, hey, can I go to this conference? And it was like, actually, I'm already going to that conference. So we'll make this work. If she didn't ask, like, I would have never known that Sierra wanted to go to this conference. And that's probably on me to not think about, like, who else can go with me. So that's something I can work on. But I do think taking initiative, and when someone reaches out and wants support, and there's someone who is looking to grow their career, you as a leader can reach back and help them grow.
Agreed.
Great. So final question, what bit of advice do you have for our next generation of female leaders? I'm going to guess take care of yourself.
yeah. But I'm just going to go back to what Ann was just talking about. Always take the initiative. Like, if I wouldn't have been, I guess I would say, attached to Jenna when I first started, I don't know if I'd be here now. Like, Jenna was my mentor, and I want to take what she gave me and be able to pass it down to somebody else. So find your mentor and then find a mentee. That is one thing they told us at the conference. Find a mentor if you don't have one. I have multiple. There's many of them that I can reach out to right now in a heartbeat, whether it's man or woman. I have both. I will reach out to them in a hot, skinny minute. I do not care. I will blow up their phones too, so I'm sorry, y'all. But make sure you find somebody that you can pass all that knowledge down to as well. Like, I have a mentee. I have multiple. And I love them so much, and I trust them, and I want them to do big things in their lives. So make sure you can find somebody that wants that for you, and then find somebody that you can want that for as well. that take initiative to do all of that and make sure that you and others, all of us, not just women, but all of us are reaching our full potentials and going forward to reach our dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% the mentor aspect. I would not be where I'm at today without coaches and mentors in my life. I've told that to my team. Finding a mentor is a great thing, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
But I also think, since we're sticking on the women thing, I think it's easy for women to play the victim card. Like, I'm not getting looked at because I'm a woman, and I'm not getting the pay that I want because I'm a woman. And it's really like, how do you take ownership in your growth and taking the initiative? There are plenty of times when I was early on in my career, it's like, I could sit here and do the same thing, but like, what else can I learn? And so it's going down to the administrative office and saying like, hey, I know you, like, are there any other projects I could help maybe take off your plate? Is there something I could take on?
Yeah.
And yes, it's extra work, but like, that's how you learn something. Or can you volunteer for an organization and learn a new skill through that organization? So maybe you get involved with some organization that you're passionate about, and they have a marketing committee. And it's like, I have no marketing. I had no social media training, but like, I'll join a marketing committee. They want to volunteer. And I can learn from that way. And now that's a skill set I can take to the next job to say like, it wasn't in my last professional job that I learned marketing, but I know how to do marketing because of this. So it's about getting involved. It's about reaching out. I mean, it's not going to come if you're just sitting on your couch and then saying, it's because I'm a woman and we all work hard. Everyone's running around working hard, but you know, it's taking that extra initiative, learning new skills, you know, trying to play the game too. So
Yeah. Okay, well, great. Thank you, ladies.
Right.
So again, thank you to Ann and Sierra for joining today. And if you have any questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer if you reach out. So we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.